The judge sentenced Thomas to 45 years behind bars for his role in both the Waukesha shooting death and the town of Brookfield armed robbery. In February, Thomas pled guilty to felony murder from that incident. He also pled guilty to armed robbery repeater for an incident 3 days before the shooting. That crime happened at a 7-Eleven in the town of Brookfield. Thomas told police he fired his gun during that robbery as well, though no one was hurt.
I know if y'all had proof of me robbing somebody, we wouldn't even be talking. Y'all would have cuffed me, I would be charged with it. That's what I know, bro.
Have you ever wondered what happens when a criminal tries to outsmart the police? In the shadows of the city, a dangerous game of wits unfolds as cunning individuals seek to stay one step ahead of law enforcement. From mastermind heists to elaborate schemes, these criminals believe that they can outwit even the most seasoned detectives. Join us on a thrilling journey as we explore the high-stakes world where criminals attempt to be smarter than the police.
Come on.
In January 2020, a rapper known as dababy, whose real name is Jonathan Kirk, was scheduled to perform at a nightclub in Miami. However, things took a bad turn when the owner of the nightclub paid him only $20,000 out of the $30,000 he owed him. This led to a series of unfortunate events. According to the person who claimed to be the victim, Kirk allegedly punched him in the face multiple times. To make matters worse, more members of Kirk's group joined in and attacked the victim. They beat him up, causing him to fall to the ground, and then proceeded to rob him. They took his phone, credit card, and $80 in cash. Unfortunately, the only evidence of this incident was a blurry video from a security camera. After the incident, Kirk quickly fled the scene in a black SUV. However, a few hours later, he returned to his hotel, only to find both of his victims and a team of police officers waiting to arrest him. Kirk was taken to the police station, where he was told that he was being questioned as part of an investigation. However, the investigation turned out to be more complicated than expected. Kirk spent his time in the interrogation room, making things difficult for the police officers. He didn't cooperate and made their job challenging.
What's your full name? Come on.
We just want to get it from you. This is just a formality. Just tell name, date of birth, and all that stuff.
This immediately made it clear to the detectives that this case was not going to be easy. Kirk started by refusing to answer any questions from the officers, even simple ones about his name. The detectives had already informed him of his Miranda rights, which include the right to remain silent. It seems like Kirk has decided to exercise this right and not say anything. However, it is interesting to note that he has chosen to waive his right to a lawyer. Let's be honest, it's not because he can't afford one. Usually, the best thing to do in this situation is to stay silent and ask for a lawyer. But this time, Kirk is confident that he can find a way out of this situation by carefully choosing his words. Kirk said that he wasn't involved in anything that happened outside. It's a bit confusing, but basically he meant that his manager was talking to someone who wanted him to perform at a nightclub called Cafe Iguana Pines. However, it turned out that the money that they were offering was stolen, and the person he was dealing with was acting strangely. Instead of going ahead with the deal anyway, Kirk told them to get their act together and left without arguing. But there was an incident outside that was caught on camera. It's not clear from the footage what exactly happened, and there were no witnesses nearby who could identify the people involved. As long as Kirk sticks to his story and keeps saying the same thing, things should be okay for him.
It's common sense. You know what I made to even be down here? A promoter booked me at that hotel. I didn't pay to be at the hotel. That was paid for. You'd have let me on my room, you would have saw close to $250,000 cash, legally, hard-earned money. I don't got to take nothing from nobody, bro.
Well, let me ask you this.
I will go outside here right now and throw $10,000 in the air. Like, I do not care about no money. I don't.
Was there an argument?
No, it was an argument. I didn't argue with a soul. My voice was never raised. It was never aggressive language from me. None of that.
Was there a fight?
None of that. No, I ain't seen no fight. And nothing was taken. We shouldn't be in no robbery, bro.
Although it may seem like Kirk is showing off his money as a rapper, he is making an important point in this situation. If Kirk regularly engages in expensive business deals during weekdays and supports hundreds of thousands of people financially each month, why would he need just $80 and an iPhone? The farther he distances himself from this event, both physically and figuratively, the better it is for Kirk's perspective. He strongly believes that he had nothing to do with the crime and can provide a logical and sensible explanation for where he was at that time. However, from the detective's point of view, a crime occurred and Kirk's vehicle was present at the scene. Therefore, they need to gather the necessary information to reconstruct Kirk's day and create a narrative that Kirk cannot dispute, hoping to coerce him into confessing to the crime.
When I encountered you in the hotel, you came back to the concierge, the counter.
Yeah.
Where were you coming from at that point?
Prime, whatever the hell I went to eat. I went to get some food.
Where's that?
I don't remember.
You don't know?
No.
How'd you get there?
In the car.
What kind of car? Was it a car you drove, somebody else drove?
Even though Kirk doesn't have the lawyer with him, he knows exactly how to handle the interrogation. At that time, he was in a strong position, and he wanted to maintain that advantage. The police were looking for any evidence that connects Kirk to the crime scene. However, Kirk was clearly steering the conversation away from that topic and focusing on what he believed was more important. This makes it highly unlikely for the police to obtain the evidence that they need. It's interesting to note that Kirk didn't ask for a lawyer, even though he knows what to do in an interrogation. He should be aware that in almost all situations, having a lawyer present wouldn't harm his case. Perhaps it's because of his pride or a temporary lapse in his thinking. Nevertheless, Kirk is winning this interrogation, and soon he will be completely dominating it.
You take the word robbery out of the picture.
So while we here, we taking the word robbery out of the picture. Y'all are robbery detectives. This is robbery unit. That's the second word he said. That's the second word he said when he came in here. Robbery. Come on, bro.
Okay, listen.
He told me he asked to question me about a robbery when I walked in my hotel. Robbery.
Even without a lawyer present, Kirk knew exactly what to do. He had the upper hand in the interrogation and needed to maintain it. The police were searching for any evidence that would place Kirk at the scene of the crime. However, Kirk skillfully redirected the conversation away from that topic and back to what he deemed important. As a result, it was highly unlikely for the police to obtain the evidence they needed. The police realize that they won't be able to get any information from him right now. He has already told his side of the story clearly and made it clear that he won't change it, no matter what the police say. So following the usual procedure, the detectives decided to leave the room and take some time outside to think about their next steps. This is often done to make the suspect anxious while being alone in the room, which sometimes helps in getting them to confess. However, in this case, the suspect Kirk simply closed his eyes and fell asleep. Unfortunately, it seems that the detectives couldn't come up with a plan for their next move. They decided that nothing they did would make Kirk cooperate. The next time a detective came in, it was to talk about the security of Kirk's belongings that were left in his hotel room. Even though Kirk hadn't been found guilty yet, he was still the main suspect in the investigation, so he would have to spend some time in jail while they figured out what to do and collected all the evidence they could find. They had to figure out what to do with his belongings while he was locked up. However, Kirk refused to let them touch his things and insisted that the hotel handle it. Kirk could face a possible sentence of up to 15 years in prison and a $10,000 fine, along with any additional charges that they could bring against him for the assault. But all of this was only possible if they could gather enough evidence, which they were not able to get from Kirk or from the blocked security footage, which was the only evidence of the crime. After spending only 48 hours in jail, Kirk was released and allowed to go home. Just 2 months later, all charges against him were dropped, and he remained a free man. As we conclude our gripping exploration of criminals trying to be smarter than the police, one thing becomes clear: the pursuit of justice is a battle of wits that never ceases. With every cat and mouse chase, the line between cunning criminals and resourceful detectives blurs, leaving us captivated by the relentless pursuit of the truth.
two men working late at a convenience store are lucky to be alive after being shot at during armed robberies.
In January 2015, a gas station was robbed in Waukesha County, Wisconsin. Two men with masks entered the station and asked the cashier for money. Before the cashier could give them the money, one of the men killed him. The police started investigating the robbery, and the evidence they discovered pointed to one of the men, Kenneth Thomas. Kenneth was 19 years old at the time, and he was believed to be the one who pulled the trigger. The police found and arrested Kenneth, and they took him in for questioning.
Why don't you have a seat right here? This way. All right. Now, before I let the detective in charge know that you're hearing what's going on.
According to the police, they suspected that Thomas and his partners might be responsible for at least 5 other robberies in southeast Wisconsin. Based on court documents, it is mentioned that Thomas and Darren Malone, who is 28 years old, were given a ride to Waukesha on January the 10th by Jerica Cotton, who is 23 years old. The complaint states that Cotton drove the group from Thomas's apartment in West Allis to Citgo gas station located at Moreland Boulevard and White Rock Avenue in Waukesha. Cotton informed investigators that Thomas asked her for the ride and promised to pay her $50. Thomas reportedly provided direction to the gas station and told her to park her car a little distance away from the gas station. Cotton told the police that both Thomas and Malone exited the car and walked down the street towards the gas station while wearing green masks.
People are going to make decisions based on limited information, and then those decisions may be, in the end, not appropriate.
According to the legal document, it is claimed that Thomas told the police that as he was climbing over the counter, Shawani suddenly ran out. Thomas says that Shawani grabbed him, and the next thing he knew, the gun went off accidentally. Thomas admits that he took the money and hurriedly left the store, only stopping briefly to retrieve his mask and hat. The complaint states that Cotton, who was also present, heard Thomas say, "I just shot the dude," when he returned to the car. In the complaint, Thomas says that he didn't intend to kill the person and believed that the gun's safety was activated. Both Thomas and Cotton state that they briefly lost their way in Waukesha before finding the highway and heading back to West Allis. After returning to West Allis, Thomas claims that Cotton asked for a share of the money. Cotton has been charged with felony murder as an accomplice to the crime. To put it simply, the legal complaint tells us that Thomas and Shawani were involved in a situation where a gun was fired accidentally. Thomas insists that he didn't mean to harm anyone and thought the gun was safe. They took money from the store and left, but later got lost before returning home. When they arrived, Cotton asked for a portion of the money. Cotton has been charged with felony murder because she was involved in the crime. In a conversation with the police, Cotton explained that Thomas and Malone accidentally left behind their masks and hats in her car. She confessed to getting rid of the evidence by throwing it in a trash bin located near 27th and Kilbourne Avenue in Milwaukee. Within a span of less than 10 hours after the gas station robbery in Waukesha, the police arrested Thomas while they were already investigating another armed robbery. The police searched Thomas's apartment in West Allis and discovered a gun that he supposedly used in several robberies. The Waukesha police need your help to find a person named Darren Malone. They say he is armed and very dangerous, so it is important to be careful. It seems that Malone doesn't have any connections to Waukesha that they know of. The owner of the Citgo gas station, Thomas, says that Malone and another person robbed his store. To encourage people to come forward with information, Thomas is offering a reward of $5,000 for any details that help the police catch Malone and bring him to justice. During a court appearance on January the 19th, Thomas had his bail set at $1 million. The judge in Waukesha County decided on such a high bail amount because Thomas is suspected of being involved in other robberies in southeast Wisconsin. The police currently think that Thomas and his partners are responsible for at least 6 robberies in different places, including West Allis, Milwaukee, Waukesha, and the town of Brookfield. Not only did Thomas and his partners allegedly rob a gas station in Waukesha, but the police also believe that they fired multiple shots during a robbery in the town of Brookfield on January the 10th. Additionally, the police suspect that this group of suspects was involved in 3 robberies in West Allis between September 2014 and January 2015. Furthermore, they are believed to have committed a bank robbery in the city of Milwaukee. A judge in Waukesha County decided that Jerica Cotton needs to pay $250,000 as bail. She is accused of committing a serious crime called felony murder and armed robbery. If the court finds her guilty, Cotton may have to spend as long as 80 years in prison. Thomas is facing several charges, including first-degree intentional homicide, armed robbery, possession of a firearm by a person with a criminal record, giving a dangerous weapon to a person under 18, and first-degree reckless endangering safety. A judge in Waukesha County decided on May the 4th that Kenneth Thomas will spend 45 years in prison. After that, he will have to be under supervision for an additional 20 years. Kenneth Thomas expressed that he has changed as a person. Thomas mentioned, "I want to say sorry, and while I cannot bring the person back, I can make a positive impact on other people's lives through my testimony."
Can't feel y'all pain, but I truly could, and I understand it. I go beyond it actually, but I want to say I apologize, and I can't bring them back, but I could help change some lives with my testimony.
In February, Thomas pled guilty to felony murder from that incident. He also pled guilty to armed robbery repeater for an incident 3 days before the shooting. That crime happened at a 7-Eleven in the town of Brookfield. Thomas told police he fired his gun during that robbery as well, though no one was hurt.
Senseless, brutal violence engaged in by yourself and Mr. Malone for nothing more than money.
The judge sentenced Thomas to 45 years behind bars for his role in both the Waukesha shooting death and the town of Brookfield armed robbery.
Judge Lloyd Carter criticized Thomas and his accomplice, Mr. Malone, for committing a senseless and brutal act of violence just for the sake of money. Thomas admitted his guilt to the crime of felony murder related to the death of Shawani. He also confessed to another incident that occurred 3 days before the shooting at a 7-Eleven store in Brookfield. During that robbery, Thomas fired a gun, but luckily, no one got hurt. Anthony Cotton, the lawyer representing Thomas, expressed a deep feeling of sadness and dissatisfaction about the situation. He empathized that multiple aspects of this case have led to disappointment. Firstly, a precious life was tragically taken away, causing immense sorrow. Additionally, the outcome of the legal proceedings has resulted in a young man being sentenced to spend 45 years in prison. This news brings further disappointment as it signifies the loss of his freedom and the impact it will have on his life. As the relentless detective worked tirelessly to unravel the truth, the suspect's cunning maneuvers left everyone astonished. This gripping story proves that in the world of crime and intrigue, not everything is as it seems. Join us in our next gripping installment as we uncover the shocking conclusion to this game of mental chess.